I'm applying a garter stitch border with an I-cord edge to this domino blanket, and I've begun it with a flap of waste yarn, so this bright turquoise is instead of a cast on edge. This will allow me to seamlessly join it when I get back to the beginning. So this is just 6 rows of stocking stitch into which row 1 was worked. After several experiments, I've decided upon putting a garter bump around the edge of the blanket as I go, and then applying the edge to it. So in order to make the garter bump, rather than trying to knit the whole way around the edge, I prefer to knit up a couple of units at a time. And so I have got 2 yarns so that I can knit the 2 rows of the garter bump as I go. The advantage of knitting up the stitches as you go is, should you need to change the ratio of stitches you pick up, you can adjust it as you go round. So I'm actually picking up every selvage stitch, but should I find that that wasn't quite right, or I needed to skip one every now and again, I'm not committed until I get there, so I can adjust as I go. Or if you were going around an armhole, for example, where you wanted to pick up fewer stitches, then you can adjust the rate of pickup. So I'm just knitting underneath the selvage stitch, both sides of it, with first my knit yarn, and then I'm going to slip the stitches onto another needle and follow on with the purl yarn. Just overlap the tapers and squish the stitches back. And now I'm getting hold of my other yarn source, and I'm going to purl those stitches. Even though I'm going to have breaks in my yarns, I'll just make sure they don't happen at the same place. There's a lot of ends in this blanket anyway, so a couple more are not going to hurt. Now I'm ready to go back to this end and start applying again. The wonderful thing about double pointed needles is you can work from either end. I'm actually striping this blanket. I'm doing 2 rows of a subtly different colour and then 2 rows of my main colour. So the previous row ended yarn forward, slip 3, so I'm now just carrying that across the back to create the I-cord. And I've done 2 rows with my contrast, so I'm throwing it over to the left, picking up my main yarn from underneath and from the right, and continuing to apply this edge. The edge can be as wide as you like. I've gone for a 10 stitch edge, the outer 3 of which are I-cord. There's a number of different ways you can attach an edge, but in this case I'm doing a slip, slip, knit to give me a nice flush join. And now I'm ready for the return row. I'm going to knit backwards, or knit from the right needle to the left. If you can't remember how to do this, just turn the work, set it up with the needle through the stitch and throw the yarn as usual, and then turn round and look at it from the other side. But with a project like this, it saves a lot of time and tangles not to have to keep flipping the work around. As I get to the outside 3 stitches, all I have to do is take the yarn away from me, slip the edge stitches onto the left needle, and then I'm ready for my next row. Each time I get to just a few stitches remaining, I slip back to the beginning of the needle and pick up a bunch more stitches. I try not to work to the very end because these stitches are loose and wobbly in shape, so it's better to have a few between you and that before you resume knitting up stitches along the edge.